Hey there, welcome. So we'll continue from where we left off in our earlier lecture. So we are still on the demo stash repository with which we worked earlier. And let's execute the command git stash list to check our list of stash. Press enter. And now let's assume that we are done with all the work on hotfix branch and my boss has said that it was a good job and you can continue with your other work. So I'm back to the master branch and I will start working on the 4 files which are index.html, browserconfig.html, 404.html and the new file.txt. Now in order to retrieve whatever is on the stash, we need to execute the command git stash apply. Now when you execute the command git stash apply without any further argument to the apply subcommand, then git stash will be applied to the first stash or the stash at the top. However, if you want, you can provide an argument to the apply subcommand and you can mention a specific stash which might be 1 or which might be 2 and then you can execute the command. So here we'll execute the command git stash apply without any parameters to the apply subcommand. So let's press enter and here you go. So you can see the response of git is similar to something like the git status command. It says there is an untracked file and you have retrieved it from the stash, and of course the command git stash apply has applied on the first stash. And now I can continue working on the new file or I can simply commit it. Now in order to make things quick, I'll commit this file new file.txt without working any further on it. But this is an untracked file, so I need to execute the command git add by adding it to index, and then I need to commit the file using git commit -m, and the simple commit message is new file.txt committed, quotes close, press enter and the commit is done. Okay, so let's execute the git stash list command once again. Now you can see that git stash at 0 has been applied and we don't need it any further, so we'll remove this stash using git stash drop command. So the command is something like this: git stash drop. Now if you do not provide any argument to the subcommand drop, then it will automatically apply onto the latest stash on the top, which is stash at 0 here. But of course, if you want, you can apply an argument and you can provide any number related to the stash index, which can be 2, 3, 4 or 5, whatever you want. So here in this case, I'll remove this one and I'll simply use the git stash drop command. Press enter and you can see over here the stash has been dropped. If we re-execute the git stash list command, you can see the stash now lists only 3 stashes. Now let's clear the screen and let's re-execute the git stash list. Now this time we'll apply another stash, but this time we'll provide an argument to the apply subcommand. So let's assume that we want to apply this stash instead of the stash at the top. So in order to remove stash at 1, we need to execute this command git stash apply, and then we need to provide the specific stash index. In our case it's 1 and press enter. And here you go. You can see git properly indicates that 404.html has been modified, and we can confirm this from our previously entered stash message. Now if I want, I can continue working on the file 404.html, but I will stop here, and in order to make things first, I'll just commit the file 404.html using git commit -am, since 404.html is already a tracked file. Our simple commit message is 404.html committed. Quotes close, press enter and the commit is done. Now we don't need this stash 1 any further, that we have applied the stash already, so we need to drop this stash. Now since git stash drop without any argument to the drop subcommand will drop the stash at the top, but here we need to drop the stash at 1, will provide the argument to the drop subcommand using stash at 1. Press enter and the stash 1 has been dropped. You can see over here. Let's clear the screen and let's re-execute the command git stash list. Press enter and we have only 2 stash in our list of stashes. Now so far we have been applying stash and then dropping the stash. What about a very convenient command that can apply and drop at the same time? Yes, Git also has that command, and that is pop. So let's decide that we want to apply and drop this stash in one go. So for that we need to execute the command git stash pop. And since we want to apply and remove a stash which is down below the list, we need to provide argument to the pop subcommand. So stash at 1. Press enter and here you go. Here too you can see that pop has provided a message similar to apply, which in turn is very similar to the response for git status command. And in addition, pop has provided this response. It says that it has dropped this stash as well, and of course it has applied, that can be seen here. So now we can continue to work on the file index.html, or we can commit it right away. So in order to make things quick, we'll commit the file index.html using git commit -am and express commit, since index.html is already a tracked file. So our simple commit message is index.html committed. Quotes close, press enter and commit is done. So if we execute the git stash list command once again, you can see that we have a single stash left on our list. The last command was git stash pop, which both applied and removed the stash. So now that we have a single stash, we can just execute the command git stash apply, press enter, and we can see the browser config.xml is out there. So we can continue to work on the file browser config.xml, but for the purpose of demonstration, we'll not work on it any further and we'll simply commit it using git commit -am, which is an express commit for a tracked file. And our simple commit message is browser config.xml committed, and the commit is done. So let's clear the screen and let's re-execute the command git stash list, and we have the single stash out there. We can simply use the command git stash drop, press enter, and the last stash has been dropped. We can re-execute git stash list, and of course this time there is no response since all the stashes has been cleared. Now let's clear the screen. Now finally in this lecture we'll show you the git stash clear command, in which you can drop all stash in one go. So let's create 2 stash. For the purpose of demonstration, let's modify the file index.html and let's modify the reference to the image file here, appletouchicon.png. We'll make it appletouchicon1.png. Press escape :WQ to save and quit, and let's create a stash, git stash. We are not providing this time any stash message over here. We simply create the stash, and let's create another stash. So we'll modify the file 404.html. Press enter, and this time we'll simply modify this attribute, which is text align. So instead of center, we'll change it to right. Press escape :WQ to quit and save, and let's execute the git stash command once again. Let's clear the screen and let's execute the git stash list now to check our list of stash. So we have 2 stash over here. Now let's assume that we really do not need those unfinished work saved on the stashes and we want to clear the stash in one go instead of dropping them individually. So for this we have the command git stash clear, press enter, and let's now re-execute the command git stash list. Git has no response, which means the list is empty and the clear command has cleared or dropped all the stash in one go. So with this we conclude this lecture.